Adversity is necessary. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is this girl saying? Is she seriously saying that I need hardships and struggles in my life? And that is exactly what I am saying. You see, we don't know who the heck we are until we have been kicked in the face and dropped down to our knees. Because it is then when it takes everything within us to pick ourselves back up. We see what we are capable of and what it takes to create the person we need to be to survive. Had it not been for the struggles in my life, I can guarantee you that I would not be standing here in front of you. You see, at the age of 2, my parents made their trek to the United States. They headed onto a journey that I never anticipated for, never dreamed of, and certainly never prepared for. Little did I know that that decision would impact me every single day of my life. But I mean, what could I know? I was 2 years old. I am the oldest child, and we all know the responsibility that that comes with. My load of responsibility was a lot heavier than it should have been. I carried the responsibility of being the translator of the family. I helped my parents with doctor's appointments, filling out paperwork, and just making sure that they weren't being cheated in stores. This was a lot on me. This took something away from my childhood, and I felt selfish. You see, I knew a lot more about adulthood than I needed to at the time. I grew up rather quickly, so I guess you could say I was a very young adult. The thing is, the older I got, the more I understood what type of love and sacrifice had been made for me. You see, packing up your bags and heading off to another country isn't something that you spontaneously do. Overnight, you don't just decide that you want to start over just because. This was something that my parents did, not for them, but for my brother and I. You see, my parents had to stop attending school when they were in elementary. They had to. It wasn't because they wanted to. They needed to be able to make ends meet at home. They were only in elementary. They needed to help pay bills, provide food, and to simply keep the roof over their heads. They needed to stop learning to survive, to live. And this was something that my parents did not want for their children. Their minds were open to their children's dreams long before we knew we had them. That's something extraordinary. The reason why adversity is so necessary is because it strips you away from your complacency. What is complacency? It's the feeling of self-satisfaction and comfort for what you have. You think you know it all about yourself and your circumstances. You're comfortable. My parents' journey landed us in Immokalee, a small town in southwest Florida. Fun fact, the literal translation of Immokalee means my home, and undoubtedly this place was my home. In Immokalee, the population is 24,000, and of that number, 95% of the people are people of color. I blended right in. I was comfortable. I guess I was pretty complacent, and I knew everything about the world around me. The thing about being comfortable is that you're in a continuous routine, and you know what comes next. You know how to manage. And people already knew what they wanted for my future. At least these prejudged statements of what my life was going to be like. Had two options. A, go to college and commute back home, or if I was brave enough, go to a school 5 hours away. Or B, just not graduate and just work. You see, neither of these options were things that I wanted. I wanted something more, and that terrified my parents, and that made people talk. You see, these prejudged statements of what our lives should be like cause us to settle. My journey landed me in Iowa, and through my parents' support, I was able to go out of state. And this was something that I knew I always wanted. I always wanted to go out of state. However, I did not plan for Iowa. But what I did know was that leaving that small town would serve me well. And as expected, I was alone. I had no friends or family. And during my first days of college, I began to understand why it's so hard for people to leave home. And that's because it is home. Home does not look at you weird when you walk through the door. Home does not whisper behind your back, and home certainly does not make you feel like you do not belong. And that's exactly how I felt. I cried and I hurt. I longed for the comfort of my family, my town. You see, during that difficult time, what I realized was that I missed knowing what the heck I was doing. I missed my routine. The thing is that while I was here, I was so open to people, but people were not always open to me. And that was something that I had to accept. That was something that I had to be okay with. Because you see, I had to understand that I was and always will be different, and that my differences shouldn't be the reason that stopped me from pursuing what I had worked so hard for and what my parents had sacrificed their lives for. My complacency was stripped away. And when your complacency is stripped away, it forces you to recognize knowledge. You then realize that you actually do not have your life together, and adversity wakes you right up. Let me tell you, I was woken up. I came here blindsided, and I sure wanted to pack my bags and leave because I just did not feel like I belonged. However, I did know that if I did that, I would be running back to the bubble I so badly wanted to escape. And it was hard because I felt the pressure that I needed to be here. But I was once told, if you don't like where you are, move. You are not a tree. And that realization is strong. You're never chained down. You can get up and go. But I was not going to give in to my feelings of discomfort. You see, what I did was not something out of this world. I simply went to college, probably out of state, but that was something that's not too bad. However, we let our emotions define huge things for us. Had I let those feelings get a hold of me, I would not be here. I remember talking to my mom on the phone, and I was sitting outside the building where I was living, and I asked her, Mom, do you think I made the right decision? And she said, Meaty, which is my nickname, nobody pushed you and nobody pressured you because this is what you wanted. When your father and I first arrived to the United States, I was hurt. I cried all the time. Do you really think that I wanted to be here? I didn't. But I knew that if we left, we would be running back to the problems that we wanted to escape. They would be waiting there for us with open arms. You see, my journey to college was hard. This adjustment was difficult and it was painful. But nothing could compare to the love and sacrifice that was made for me. My parents risked their lives so that my hardships could not be what they would have been like in another country. If we had not left, I can guarantee you that I'd probably be married and I'd have 2 kids. I am 20 years old. You see, the hardships that I now face are nothing compared to what could have been then. The hardships that we face are things that other people wish that they could have. I once read, if we all threw our problems into one pile, we would pick our problems back up. The thing about adversity is that it's going to make you change, and nobody likes change. The thing about change is that it demands you to be different. You're new. And most of the time, change means that you have to start over from point 1. And the problem with that is that with change, we don't know how to manage. We don't know what we're doing, and that's terrifying. I didn't know what I was doing here, and I was afraid. But with fear, I made the effort to learn. I made the effort to embrace what I had driven myself to. And as I mentioned before, people weren't always open to me. And the most common question that I would receive would be, where are you from? And I would always finish saying, Florida. And they would say, why did you come here? Well, I don't know. Why did I come here? That shocking realization was so discouraging. But what I soon realized after a while, was that the same people giving me grief were the locals. How could I expect people to understand something that they had never felt before? How could I expect them to understand what I was feeling or why I wanted to do what I was doing? They had never done what I had done. You see, the thing is, we're afraid of adversity. We're scared of it. And it made me realize that I wasn't crazy. I did something brave. That's something that makes people think that you're crazy. And I certainly did feel crazy for a while. However, if you're dreaming of something bigger, and if you want something more, know that you can pursue that for yourself. I wanted to leave for myself because I knew there was more in this world. And this is applicable to anything that you do. This doesn't mean that you have to pack your bags and leave home. No. If you are settling in a relationship that no longer serves you, leave. If you are in a toxic workplace, get out. If you know that you deserve better, pursue it. What is stopping you? However, what I will tell you is this. Do not seek the advice or consent from people who have never been in your position. Do not ask a turtle how to fly because it's going to teach you how to hide. If your heart is broken, talk to the brokenhearted, not the ones that have never been in love. If you are lost, talk to those who have sought and found, not the ones just arriving at the starting line. Do you see where I'm going here? The problem with adversity is that once a challenge comes our way, we're afraid to even head that direction. We're so content with being at good that we think that we won't get to better. And if we even take that little step to get to better, we're scared that we won't obtain it and we'll be at rock bottom. That what if, that fear of struggle, causes us to settle and to conform. But if you are willing, pursue it. If you guys could please just close your eyes for a couple seconds. Now think about this. If tomorrow never comes, think about the one thing or the many things that fear held you back from. And now think about what's stopping you from doing that now, today, tomorrow. Please open your eyes. Do you understand that this is your life and that you can go wherever you want to go? I remember talking to a prospective student's mother, and she was super excited. Her son was going to head off to college. And during our conversation, she brought up her daughter, and she said, yeah, she wants to go out of state to a busy city. And I was excited. I was like, oh, let me tell this lady all my advice. Let me tell her what I've been through. But before I could say anything, she said, she is not going to make it out there. And my jaw dropped. If there was a fly zooming around in the room, I think I swallowed it. I was stunned. This mother was cutting her daughter's wings off before she even knew that she could try them out. She went on to say, she's not going to make it. It's going to be too hard. Too hard. You see, the thing about fear is that it stops us. We're afraid that we're going to fail because things are going to be too hard. And I'm sorry, but every single one of you guys are afraid to struggle, aren't we all? We're afraid to be hurt. We're afraid to be damaged, to be broken. We're afraid of that kick in the face and being dropped down to our knees because we're vulnerable, because we let everybody else down. But you didn't give it your shot. You didn't do it for yourself. The thing is that no matter who you are or what color you wear, there will always be people who do not believe in you, who think that you have to conform to a bubble, that you can't escape it. And I am a strong believer that ignorance is a choice. I understand that you can't control where you come from or how you are raised, but there comes a point in life where you are the ultimate ruler of all your decisions. And if you decide to step out, to be bold, to be brave, to leave that job, to leave that relationship, to leave the things that are hurting you, to seek more, you must understand this, that you are not going to be the same person, and you must be okay with change. And I'm sorry to say, but you're going to lose people. There will certainly be people who are not going to believe in you. But don't feel too bad, because those who will give you grief are typically the people who did not take the leap, who did not take that jump. As I mentioned, ignorance is a choice. You can decide today whether you want to know more or if you want to stick to what you have always known. Let's stop asking people why and start asking them how. How did you do it? How did you get here? Not Why are you here? Why did you do it? Stop making people feel like their decisions are not valid. And stop making people feel like they can't pursue what they want. Stop making people feel like they are not following standards. Whose standards? Yours? Society's? Theirs? At the end of the day, you go to bed at night with your own thoughts, with your own feelings. Don't be afraid, because adversity is certainly going to rip you apart, but it's only going to mold you into who you need to be. I will forever be thankful for my parents saving my life from the hardships I could have faced in another country. The hardships I face now are nothing compared to what could have been. The hardships I face currently today are bearable, and I'm okay. I'm alive, and I'm thankful. And what I want for all of you is to pursue something new, to pursue and do not have regrets, because this is your life. Do you want to conform or transform? You can stick to everything you've ever known or wonder about everything that you don't. So what will you choose?